If you have the ENFP personality type, this video is for you. So if you're an ENFP, you're probably pretty smart, and you probably figured by the title that this video is for you. So really just wasting everyone's time here, aren't we? If you don't know who I am, my name is Dan. This is Dreams Around the World, and I have been making videos for and working with ENFPs for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, something like that. It's tough to put ENFP in the internet and not eventually come across my face. And this is going to be a longer video where I want to share a really important insight I figured out about our personality type. Something that can really change how other people perceive you, how you feel about yourself, and ultimately what you end up accomplishing with your life. And what we are talking about here is values and developing the ability to follow a value system for yourself. Now, how many people have seen the show Dexter? Camera, I get it. All right. I'm presuming you've hopefully seen the show Dexter. If not, like, take a week off whatever you're doing now and watch it. But Dexter is about this serial killer who, when he was a child, saw something terribly traumatic. And his adopted father saw that. He was a detective. And he realized very early that this kid was going to be a psychopath and have a need to kill. So what did he do? He taught Dexter a value system so that even though Dexter had this urge to kill and he couldn't get away from that, that was who he was and that was how he was wired to act. His dad taught him this value system that was essentially only kill bad guys, which allowed him to live a life that, in many people would argue, positively contributed to society. It's a big discussion on vigilantes, I give you that. Well-being himself and meeting that need that he was not going to be able to get away from. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about here today. So as an ENFP, you've probably heard a lot of personality traits used to describe you. If you're a subscriber on my channel, those are generally positive and looking at all the amazing things you can do. If you read some random blogs or watch some other channels where people are a little angry at life, you might have heard some mean things said about you. You may have heard things about changing direction way too many times, about not being able to stay true to your word or to be on time, or being really messy and disorganized. And the nice thing about making YouTube videos is I can position the camera so you can't see this part of the room and the mess that is there. Or for that matter, the pile of dirty towels sitting at the floor of the sauna door, just there, like if the camera would just move. So there's some truth to some of that. Just like Dexter, by age 2, had this need to kill that was going to be with him for his whole life, we tend to make decisions impulsively. We tend to act in the moment. We tend to be fairly emotional with our decision making and have ups and downs, and sometimes jump to conclusions too quickly, or stay in bad situations because we're afraid of confrontation and we don't want to upset someone else, so we don't make that decision that we should. These things are relatively true of us. And I'd like to tell you that I came up with a solution myself, but it's really built right into us. It's actually how we're meant to evolve. And this is our second function, introverted feeling, which in general should develop around our 20s, depending on a lot of factors, which I discuss in the video on ENFP functions. Could develop a little bit earlier or a little bit later. And this is essentially our guiding principles. It's that we make decisions based on our internal feeling. This can be really good, right? If you have a strong sense of right and wrong, this allows us to make our decisions based on that, which can mean we're extremely decisive. We follow our own code, essentially, and that is really a valuable thing in life. Someone who operates consistently by some kind of moral code tends to be someone other people want to partner with, do business with, spend time with, because there's a sense of honor to that and a predictability, which is also nice. So that's all really great, right? The problem is, how many of us grew up with a code? How many of us at like age 10, some great figure came and said, all right, here's your code, Dan. Here's what you're going to live by. Now, hopefully we learned some of this in school. Like in school, you know, you learn don't hit other kids too often. I'm from Canada, we play hockey. You hit other kids occasionally, but don't steal. Recycle was a big thing they drilled into us. Honesty was something you're taught as well. Although the funny thing with honesty is you're usually taught it by people who lie, and you kind of know they lie because they talk differently to you because you're a kid. So you're like, this doesn't add up. But anyhow, we do learn parts of a code, right? But not enough of a value system or code to really get us through our whole life. So if you have the ENFP personality, what I think you need to do is start to develop your own code. Start to think about what is important to you. And then there's two other things that need to be developed alongside this. Otherwise, it's completely meaningless. Number one is to develop your ability to talk yourself out of things. Basically, develop your self-talk ability. And I'll give you an example of this. Right? Let's say you meet someone new and you're maybe gonna date them or do business with them. It doesn't really matter. You meet someone new and your first impression is a little weird, but it's not like a big red flag. Like sometimes you meet someone and you're like, okay, this is Dexter without a code. Get out of here, right? It's not like that, but you just don't necessarily jive with them too well at the beginning, or you feel a bit off and you don't know like what to do with it, but you start kind of jumping to conclusions. But you know, because you've watched some of my videos, maybe you've watched the video on ENFPs and INTJs, and you know that we often act quite different and maybe don't get along immediately right away. Or you've learned that sometimes your first impressions aren't great because when you're really similar to someone, you actually butt heads initially, or maybe you're competitive or jealous, or any kind of things could come up. So you learn that, hey, maybe when I meet people right away, I should give them a bit more time. I should get to know them a bit more, because this could end up being a really great friendship. Often people who are a bit opposite and butt heads initially end up getting along really well. So when you're feeling those emotions of forget this person, I'm not going to invite them to the party or whatever it is, you stop yourself and you say, hey, Dan, remember all those other times you judged a little too early? Remember what you learned from your own YouTube channel? Maybe just give this person one more try. And you interrupt the emotional thinking, you bring it to more cognitive, you step back and you say, okay, yeah, let's give it a try. And you adjust your actions. You don't just impulsively act. The same thing's true if you know something is a really positive habit for you. Since the beginning of the quarantine, I've been working out with a trainer online 3 to 4 times a week. And I dread it a little less now because I've just been getting in better shape, but I really dreaded it at the beginning. It's like, this is going to be painful. I don't really enjoy most of these exercises he makes me do. And it's like a Rocky Balboa gym here. Like we're using water bottles as weights and just like weird stuff that's even more uncomfortable than going to a normal gym. So I don't really like it. I like the trainer and I like how I feel after, and I like the long-term benefits it will have, but I don't like it. But have I ever missed a session? No, because I talk myself through that. I say, hey, you know you don't want to do this, but sometimes the things you want to do are not the right things, and sometimes things you don't want to do will be better for you, are good for you, whatever. So basically stopping, thinking big picture, getting out of the fear or the dread or the just, I don't want to do this, and then making a better decision and then forcing yourself to do it. And that leads us to the third thing that needs to be developed for this little triad to work well together, which is discipline and the ability to basically tell yourself what to do. And then this part's important, to then do it. We are not one unified creature here, right? With one brain in the same direction. This is all people, but especially as ENFPs, we are full of contradictions and multiple personalities inside us wanting to do a ton of different things at once, right? What you need to do is work on bringing that together, and at the very least, giving the power to the part of you that has your future interests in mind, your best interests, and that same part you should align with some kind of value system. So this way, when you don't feel like doing something, or maybe you impulsively want to change direction or whatever it happens to be, you stop and think to yourself, is this fair to the other people? Is this the kind of person I want to be? Is this how I want to show up in the world? Is this really who I am? And you can step back and look at the decision a little more objectively. We can never be fully objective with ourselves, but you can be a little more objective and step back and look at it and then realize, hey, my values would actually say I should do this. And when I step back, that does seem like the right thing to do, even if it's a bit painful to do it. But that is what I'm going to do, because here's like the pleasure point that you're moving towards, right? You know that if you follow it in the long run, you're going to be someone who is respected, who people really want to work with or spend time with. You're going to end up having more success in life. And perhaps best of all, you'll feel better about yourself, because when you do the right thing, and hopefully your code is aligned, like if you were raised by a pack of hyenas who also doubled as bank robbers on the weekends, you might need to readjust, your value system. But assuming you weren't, when you do that right thing, you feel good about yourself. And that ultimately creates a very positive snowball effect where the better you feel about yourself, the more you feel you deserve, and then the more you're willing to basically work for a better life for yourself. When you do shitty things, you tend to see that in yourself, and then you don't feel good about yourself, and then you don't feel like you deserve a better life, that you deserve anything good, because you're like, hey, I'm kind of a shitty person, which is probably true if you've been doing shitty things, at least in that moment. Let's be honest with each other. And that creates a destructive negative cycle, and that is not what you want. Ultimately, you do want to determine the values or code system that is right for you. If you are new to the channel, my name is Dan. This is Dreams Around the World. I am an ENFP, and I publish new videos each and every week, primarily for ENFPs, helping you become the best version of yourself, all while creating the most awesome life possible for you and those you love. So hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you in the next video soon. Bye for now. One more thing I wanted to add. Yes, this process may be difficult. Yes, it won't always be easy to follow through. And yes, you will screw up at times, but ultimately you have to ask yourself, are you someone who's committed to bettering yourself and to being someone you can be proud of? Or aren't you? Or do you want to make excuses about how it's so hard to concentrate while you're playing 20 different cell phone games or doing whatever else? You might have to pick up a daily exercise habit, quit some unhealthy food, maybe see a psychologist or a coach about something. If you really have trouble focusing and it's a severe problem, see someone about that. Whatever you need to do, do it. If you're committed to this, and if you've made it to the end of the video here, even past my whole part about subscribing to the channel, then I'm guessing you either fell asleep or you're pretty committed to making this kind of a change. Big change is tough, and it's especially tough at the very beginning. And so you've got to think for yourself, is it worth doing? And think about a vision for your life and for how people will see you that will be exciting enough to pull you through and to make it worth it. If it's not worth it for you, if you have a range of excuses and you just don't really want to make any kind of change, that's totally cool too. I'm not really here to force anything upon anyone. But if you do, know that it's hard for everyone and it will be difficult, but it will be worth it. And it gets easier each and every day.